Now and then, we get to encounter people whose talents we recognize at once and whose work we feel should be more widely seen and known. A bond forms, mutual admiration turns to familiarity, intersupportive efforts, deep empathies, and perhaps, eventually, the seething resentments and envies that, if we're lucky, last through years of genuine, complex, ambivalent friendship. The first person to...
I love that sentence. I'm sorry, I just love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will give it to you later. The first person to sign on for Active Voice Productions' weekly writers' workshop in Koreatown, which I lead every Saturday morning from 10 to noon. You can go to activevoiceproductions.com/workshop to learn more. Our next showcased writer dedicates such care into crafting such beautiful work that I find myself constantly awed at the Herculean efforts towards self-sabotage it must take for him not to be vastly wealthy and well rewarded for his wit and his words. He is a friend and a delightful human. Please welcome to the stage, reading from his new book in progress, Time and Tides and Terry, one of my favorite humans on the planet, Parker Bennett.
Now, yep. First off, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It really means a lot to all of us, and it's great to have your support. Thank you very much. And of course, I want to thank Dylan. Dylan, for a guy who really likes talking about himself, he's only adequate at self-promotion. He's getting better.
I'm trying.
But I must point out that Dylan's helped me with two projects now. The first one, I came to him as a writing coach, and it was an idea I was putting off writing. I had been mulling over for 2 years, and within 3 weeks, I had a first draft of a pilot. This project, I've been putting off writing for 25 years, and now I'm 20,000 words in. So if you have been putting off a writing project, Dylan is your guy.
Oh, thank you for that applause.
I failed my screenwriting class at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That's what goaded me, I think, into going after screenwriting seriously. Eventually getting movies produced with my name on them, mine and Terry's. I wanted to prove that teacher wrong. They were bad movies, but you can't have everything. My own mother came up to me after the premiere of Super Mario Brothers and said it was the worst movie she'd ever seen in her life. No argument from me, though I now tell people that the mushroom motif is there as a suggestion for how best to experience the movie. I can't really blame my teacher for failing me, or the bad movies. I barely showed up in class. At that time, 1982, I had started a college humor magazine, and it was taking up all my time. I had also found a worthy co-conspirator in Terry. Terrence Dean Runte. He added the accent mark to keep people from saying runty. Runte. Part James Cagney, part James Dean. Terry was sharp-featured and confident. He strode in late to the organizational meeting I held at the student newspaper office, slipped off his leather jacket, and smoothed out his long, dark hair. I pushed my glasses up, ran fingers through floppy red hair. An unfortunate 80s moose phase would come later. The post-fatherhood complete loss of hair would be quite a few years after that. He was short, 5'7", with an extra inch from the biker boots. I straightened my shoulders to stand taller. His dark eyes darted around, a quick smile for Maggie, our jock-loving sports editor. Later, they would have sex in the darkroom. Terry had ridden in from Milwaukee with his friend John Pintar. The biker jackets went with actual bikes. But from the city of Harley-Davidson, they rode classic British motorbikes, Triumph and BSA. Clearly, these guys were rebels. Terry looked at the logo I was showing off. He sounded dubious. Bite magazine? Bite, yeah, like biting satire. Bite the hand, you know. Bite me, he suggested. Reflexively, I flipped the vellum back over the artwork and stowed it. I like it, he decided. I smiled. No need to be discouraging. The guy might have a knife. There were other talented contributors at Bite, but none as prolific as Terry or as funny. As he and I worked to fill the bulk of the 64 pages, I was motivated by a secret goal: keeping up with him, trying to make Terry laugh. I held back my impulse to edit when we collaborated, trying to be cool. Terry was never content to just go over the line. He wanted to stomp out all traces of it. Working late, my clock was shifting to Terry time. He liked to get up at the crack of noon. I honestly thought he coined the phrase. Then start after dinner, writing until the early morning. I felt tranquil as I wandered out of the office onto a deserted State Street mall at 4 a.m. The cold air was bracing as it rustled the multicolored flyers that were stapled atop each other on the well-lit kiosks. The flyers looked like a Seurat, painting the multitude of activities available for the students here. The normal ones, the other students, the ones on a normal schedule. We inhabited a different world. As I stayed up later and later, I skipped more and more classes. I got good at making up excuses, but I was starting to lose interest in even that. Wait a minute, I said to Terry as I closed up the office. What are you doing about classes? Oh, I'm down to just the one. That's all I need, though, to keep running the Film Society, he explained. Also, I'm out of financial aid. I nodded, but kept my own dire finances a secret. A lifetime of my mother worrying about appearances on Chicago's North Shore had rubbed off, and I was benefiting from all the privilege I still radiated coming from that suburban Valhalla. Illusion fields, where Jaguars slept in 3-car garages, where my high school had its own TV station. By this time, however, the wheels had come clean off. We were ordinary people. My bipolar father had used my low-interest student loan to pay down credit cards and creditors. I would later have to pay it off. I want to learn filmmaking, Terry continued, but the guy running the department is only interested in experimental films, avant-garde. It's all about filming fruit hanging on strings. I get the feeling he's working something out. You're lucky, I said. I'm majoring in comm arts and I can't get into a single filmmaking class. Registration here is the worst. Yeah? You have to race all over campus to sign up, a different building for each class. The more senior students get to go first, so by the time you finally get there, any class you really want is already filmed, I complained. That is incredibly unfair. I've seen you run. Thanks. Maybe it's just the school's way of keeping the athletes interested in class, Terry mused. All I know is in the 3 years I've been here, I've only gotten one of my first choice classes, I told him, and now I'm flunking it. Really? What's the class? Screenwriting. I finally dared to show my face there last week after missing a month. We were supposed to read this Sid Field book. I barely skimmed it. So just lay low, it'll be fine, he advised. Too late. I went in figuring better speak up. You know, show I've done the reading. So I'm piping up, talking about the paratagem. You know, according to the paratagem. And this paratagem is really helpful. Finally, the teacher sighs. Paradigm. It's pronounced paradigm. Terry smiled. As in, you are a paradigm of idiocy. Thanks. Maybe get to the paratagem more, and you can get into the classes you want. Terry and I like to talk about filmmaking. Filmmakers. Polanski and Kubrick, his. Lubitsch and Wilder, mine. Coppola, Scorsese, Hawks. He and his friend Pintar had been running the Student Screening Society, and they shared my appreciation of classic movies, harder to come by in those days, before affordable home video. I wasn't a film snob, though. Star Wars was still my favorite movie, I confessed. That answer had earned a grunt of disdain from my screenwriting professor, and I'm pretty sure clinched the F. It's not bad, conceded Terry. The second one's better. It was life-changing. It was embedded in my psyche. I said none of this out loud. I mean, sure, it's not my favorite film, I clarified. Hard to argue with Chinatown, but it's my favorite movie. I launched into the story. I didn't see it when it first came out. The whole summer went by and then the fall, and I still hadn't seen it. My friends had all gone multiple times, but my parents would never drive me. You couldn't drive? Terry scoffed. I flunked my test the first time, I admitted. We had a Buick Electra 225. It was longer than a station wagon. At the very end, the examiner points to what I thought was a parking space, so I pull straight in. Then he tells me to do a 3-point turn. I got to 33 before I finally gave up and drove over the curb. Terry nodded. The turning radius of a Star Destroyer. Anyway, it's winter break and I can't take it anymore. I have to see this movie. I have my license now. I used a friend's car to pass, but my parents never let me drive. One little fender bender, and it was only technically my fault. So I make sure they're asleep. Then I take the car keys and sneak out. I silently roll down the driveway in neutral, then start up the engine and take off. I'm going to go see the midnight show. It's at the Edens Plaza, the biggest screen near my house. But I have to get on the expressway to get there. I'm nervous. I hate merging. I'm starting to have second thoughts. I think I'm still on the insurance, but I'm not 100% sure. So I get on and I stay to the right going like 40 miles an hour. Other cars are honking at me. I get there late and it's sold out. I can't believe it. The movie's been out for 7 months. This theater is huge. I beg the guy, come on, there must be one ticket. He pauses, then he sighs. You're going to be in front. That's okay, I like sitting close. I'm pulling out cash. I mean the front row. Oh, no, I'm not sure, but I've come this far. Okay, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. It's my first time. You haven't seen it yet? Maybe I should wait. Get in there, he shouts. And he shoves a ticket in my hand and waves me on. He doesn't even take my money. The trailers are ending. I stumble down the aisle, scanning for a seat. Lots of people are in costume. It's packed. There's nothing. Even the front row looks completely filled. Then I see it. There's one single seat at the very front, in the very front row at the very far right. I rush down to grab it. Then I look up. The screen is enormous. It's like a giant trapezoid. Fuck. Then it all goes black and there's a hush. The logo explodes on the 100-foot screen and there's the John Williams theme and it's the loudest thing I've ever heard. I'm right in front of the speaker. And it's amazing. It's the very first seat at the very far right. And I'm on the edge of it for 2.5 hours. Finally, the credits roll, and I sit there stunned, staying through to the end. Everyone does. Then we all get up and walk outside. It's 3 a.m, and it's snowing. I smiled, thinking back. You know how things look when you walk out of a movie, how everything looks hyper real? The snow looked like that. Nobody got in their car. Everyone got into their X-Wing fighter. And then they roared their engines and peeled out of the parking lot. The snow was rushing at my windshield like stars. I slid onto the expressway and punched it. Hyperspeed. So yeah, it's my favorite movie. Suddenly I was aware of the cold. I zipped up my jacket as we ambled back toward Mifflin Street. Terry was crashing on my couch. You got caught, I'm assuming, he prompted. I shook my head. Snuck in the back door, returned the keys. They never knew a thing. Really? I don't see you as stealthy, he observed. You're sort of Wookiee-like. Thanks. You must have used the Force, he grinned. The Force, I agreed. It's the only possible explanation. Thank you.